Welcome to Good Angels Fly, Tarot and More. My name is Nancy, and I'm here today to continue with my 2021 predictions. During this video / live stream, I will be covering the themes that are relative to the months of June, July, and a bit of August. If you're ever interested in ordering your own personal tarot reading, you can do so by contacting me by email. My email is canangelsfly1@gmail.com. Hello. I apologize for the background noise. I have no control over it. it's normal for me not to be able to have a quiet moment. Today, my neighbors are having a celebration. So it's a lot of people on my street. Plus, I got some rough riders for neighbors, and so they doing a rough riding thing. So a lot of motorcycle sounds. How are you today? Hi, Debbie. How are you? You say part 4. I haven't seen any other like this. Oh, well, there is. There's part 1, 2, and 3, in which I gave an overall a message in part 1 for the year. This is I probably did these videos I'm talking about. Let's see. Looking and see. I think they were earlier this year or right before the year came in, because they were their yearly predictions. Yeah, the very first one was done actually December 27th of 2020, and part 1 was talked about what to expect overall for the year of 2021, and I gave a general message. Then part 2, I think I covered January, February, and maybe March, or just January and February. And then in part 3 was like March and April, or something like that. March, April, or May, something like that in part 3. Part 2 was done December 30th, 2020. And part 3, they covered April and, what does it say, May, was done January 6th of this year. And since that time, many of my predictions that I made in those previous videos have come into being, and I posted it on my, what do they call it, community page on my channel, in which I spotlight when my predictions occurred, examples of them. And so now I'm about to move into June, July, and some of August. I do expect that this interpretation is going to be a little more difficult than the others. And the reason is because it's not so much an event that I'm picking up on, an individual major event or anything like that. But what I'm picking up on is, how can I say this? I've been trying to figure out a way to say this, is like in June, it's an aspect of our being that is focused on. And so right now I'm going to try to talk about, explain, describe this aspect of our being that's being spotlighted for the month of June for 2021. This aspect that I'm speaking about is a part, it's like attached to our psyche and our soul. But how can I have no idea how to say, to really say what it is. I experience it, so I know it well, but I don't know how to put it into words. So I'm just going to try. So what am I doing right now? I'm starting to offer my predictions for June 2021. I'm first going to try to describe this aspect of our being. When I say our being, I'm talking about a human being's, an aspect of a human being. It goes something like this, that a person that is born, people that are born into this world, I think this is the vast, amount of people born into this world, the vast populace overall, over the history of humanity. We come into this world, we don't know anything about it. We get our preliminary understanding about ourselves and the world and life from those that, offer us our upbringing, mothers, fathers, the ancestry. And as our lives unfold, there are like unanticipated and unexpected scenarios that occur that don't make sense. The key words that may help me describe this aspect of our being is, this is unexpected and it's unwarranted, meaning we don't feel like we've done anything to make it happen and we don't understand it, etc., etc. I'm like, what is that? What is this that is occurring in my life? And it wounds us deeply, deeply. And these type of wounds, we just kind of suck up and digest it and our feelings and kind of hide them away to the point where we don't even know that we carry these wounds with us through life. I'm going to continue trying to describe this aspect of our human experience, our being. And I'm going to offer some examples. An example could be like, imagine a child, fairly young, let's say about 8 or 9. They, come to know mom and dad as the protector and provider. Of course, on the simplest level, this example or imaginary 8 or 9-year-old child consciousness is very simple. So it's mom and dad, they love me, they take care of me, they protect me. Then one day, hypothetical case scenario, the mom passes or the father passes. And the child, you can explain to an 8 or 9-year-old all day long what death is. You could take a child to the funeral and to the burial ground, but they don't fully get the concept of death consciously. They don't understand the whole process of dying or what leads to death. All they know, based on their level of consciousness and awareness, is that mom or dad is not there anymore, and it hurts. That child misses the, maybe the story time, the fun, playing and family time. You just know it's a void. Something's missing. Mom or dad is missing, and it's that pain right there that is hard to, articulate. But that child, the example child, will carry that wound for the rest of their life. Now, mind you, my example child here, or the imaginary child, is only 8 or 9 years old. They'll carry through their whole life, even if they live to be 100 years old. And they may not, over the course of their life, even be aware that the wound is there, and they just continue to live their lives, and the wound affects them. It may affect, in the way it may manifest in reality is like, for instance, when this child grows up and is in their 20s or 30s, they may have abandonment issues, could come from something like that, or fear of death when their consciousness about, death develops. It's a fear of death, and they don't even know where the fear or the phobia comes from, and it rides with them their whole life. So what I'm trying to describe using that example is what the astrological energies focus on in the month of June. What I'm going to do now, in order to move forward, is, hi, Oliver, how are you? I'm Oliver. Jordan, how are you? I'm just looking at your last name. I was on your channel yesterday. I really enjoyed the content. What was I watching? It was, oh God, I can't remember, but I enjoyed it. Well, what I'm going to do now, and I thank you all for coming here and visiting me. This is a day I'm going to move slow and steady. I have opened a page. I have opened that you, ladies and gentlemen, can't see, is a Wikipedia page. And feel free to Google it and follow along if you like. The Wikipedia page topic is survivalism. Survivalism. I'll spell it. Survivalims. Survivalism. The reason why I'm going to the page on Wikipedia that covers the subject of survivalism is because the next month, which is July, goes into that topic of survivalism. But first, we got to finish with June, and we got to finish talking about the foundation, the emotional or psychological and spiritual foundation that is laid as a direct result of the kind of life experiences we end up having that are unanticipated, they're unwarranted, we can't understand them. But as long as we are alive and as long as we live, we got to digest them and move forward. And over time, we don't even know these wounds exist, but they govern and dictate how we participate in our physical lives. Okay, so I'm over again on Wikipedia on a page that covers survivalism. I am going to go and read in paragraph. I'm just going to expand this board so I can try to find it quick. Okay. On this page that covers the subject matter of survivalism, it talks about different. Oh, I'm gonna have to do it this other way. What is the other way? I'm going to have to jump from 1 month back and forth from 1 month to the other in order to make this make sense. So please ride the wave with me if you will. Now, I'm going to jump. I have to jump from June to July to talk about survivalism. Oh, let me see. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah. So much. And if you comment, I can't see much of the comments. So I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. You're welcome, because I got these other pages open. And so what I'm about to do is I'm about to change boards. And I don't even know if this is going to work. Turn this off. Nope, that's not that. Turn this one off. Okay. July. I'm not going to go into detail trying to read the astrological wheel like I normally do. But where's July? I just want to spotlight some. Of course, I didn't get my mouse out. I mean, my magnifying glass. Y'all, let me see if I can find my magnifying glass. Let's see. So when I do make a, let's see, oh, right here. So when I do make a comment about different areas of the chart, I can have you follow along with me. You can be right with me. Okay, so I got the little magnifying glass. Make it a little smaller, maybe. So I'm going to attempt to talk about the 12 different sectors, but not in a lot of detail. I need to do so in order to deliver the message. Okay, so where you see the magnifying glass at now is in the first house of Aries, and it is talking about this state or this state of being that humans are affected by, what I was just describing. And this state that I'm going to go in more detail and talk about in just a moment is running consistently through the astrological energies from, I think it started in May. It includes all of June, July, and I also see it in August. I haven't gone any further. So this, again, where the magnifying glass is, covers this, what I'm going to go talk about the human condition. Okay, this next house talks about each of our sense of physical, worldly security and stability. Do you have what you need or presume that you need, or don't you? And not only that, it's like in this chart is saying, hey, throughout each of our lives, many of our lives, I'll say, because I think there are some special or gifted people where they may not even be human, but that's a whole nother video. Anywho, in most of our lives, there comes these times that are unanticipated and unexpected that seem like they threaten our ability to live our best life. You know, whether it's a loss of a job and you can't make sense of it, the death of someone, can't make sense of it, or what I'm about to talk about, using the article on Wikipedia under talking about survivalism, is some of the events that have occurred over the course of history that has led to or prompt the whole survivalism movement. So right now, I'm on Wikipedia. I'm about to start reading from Wikipedia. Wikipedia says or states that survivalism is a social movement of individuals or groups called survivalists or preppers who proactively prepare for emergencies, including natural disasters, like people that when all that stuff happened down in New Orleans and the levees broke and they flooded out in Florida, unexpected, unanticipated, can't make sense of it. One day you got a full life, whatever it consists of, and the next day it's washed away. Example, okay. As well as disruptions to social, political, and economic order. Preparations are preparations may anticipate short-term scenarios, an event that comes and goes, it's not too devastating. You can, society can, come back from it fairly easy or effortlessly, or it can be long-term, something that's devastating that really takes time to come back from. Going back, referring back to Hurricane Katrina, I heard it's still being fixed up down there. And one time I heard that they who, people that were down there working, that it would never be the same. Anywho, still reading from Wikipedia or continuing to read from Wikipedia and why am I reading from Wikipedia right now? I'm just trying to give you some foundational information about what survivalism is. Why am I talking about it? Because the astrological energies focus and spotlight on survivalism in the month for the month of July of this year. And after I, kind of give you some foundational information about survivalism and what it is, then I'm going to go back. I'm going to try and to cover that aspect of our physical self, our being. Why? Because it is spotlighted in the month of June. Okay. I'm continuing reading survivalism. Okay. So the preparations may anticipate short-term scenarios or long-term scenarios on scales ranging from personal adversity to local disruptions of services to international and global catastrophes. Survivalism may be limited to preparing for a personal emergency, such as a job loss, as mentioned, or being stranded in the wild or under adverse weather conditions. The emphasis is on, hold on to this term, self-reliance. The emphasis is on self-reliance, stockpiling supplies and gaining survival knowledge and skills. Survivalists often acquire emergency medical and self-defense training, stockpiling food and water, prepare to become self-sufficient, and build structures such as survival retreats or underground shelters that may help them survive a catastrophe. Okay, now that was just some background information on what survivalism is. At this time, I want to go down through some of the years, historical years in which the survivalist movement spun from, So I'm just going to touch here and there. It says, let's see, in history, still on Wikipedia, during the 1930s to the 1950s, Wikipedia says that the origins of the modern survivalist movement in the UK and the United States, including government policies, threats of nuclear war, religious beliefs, and writer who warned of social and economic collapse. In both nonfiction and apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic fiction. So why is that important? Why is that sentence important? It's because it's saying, hey, that between the 1930s and 1950s, it was already being, I think, propagated or reported that there were some great concerns that government policies could lead to some type of catastrophe, or there was possibility of nuclear war. So the people of that time were being led to become afraid. They became beginning in the 1930s. It's like this consciousness. Oh wow, I'm sorry. I just thought about a video I made, and I did. Oh, I did pick up on that. I did. What did I do? I picked up on one. Some time ago, I made a video in response to the broomstick challenge. And I shared in that video that it was my belief that the powers were psychologically manipulate the masses and into helping them redefine physics. And it was something else I was going to say. Oh, so many things. Try to stay on course, Nancy. So, try to stay on course. How can I do this quicker? Anywho, in the 1930s and 1950s, that was the case. That the powers were psychologically manipulating the people of that time to suffer fear, great fear. Now, imagine coming up in your youth during that time period, hearing about threats of nuclear war or warfare. I've seen images in media over the course of my life where there was a time period when they would, in the 1950s or so, 40s and 50s, they would have children with gas masks on, have them do, nuclear attack drills while they were at school, and they were to get up under the desk. And it was another time in history where everybody in an area or, within a community knew to shut down their lights if there was ever an attack alarm that would go off. If the attack alarm went off, they were to cut their lights off and silence themselves so that if any jets were flying over, they would not know that it was a residential area. So imagine, for a child especially, that could be terrifying. That those type of scenarios have had a negative impact on our sense of well-being and security. And we have to keep on living, act like it doesn't bother us. And we shove those type of fears and terrors to the back of our minds. And over time, we forget that they even exist. Now, I talk about the children because they're so impressionable, but even the adults during the 1930s and 50s had fear and the terror that, after the time had lapsed and life went on, that still made a negative psychological impression upon them, those type of wounds. And so what they did in their lives, how they move forward with their lives, are governed by those hidden fears and terrors. Now, that's just some examples. Another example is still, referring to the sentence I just read in Wikipedia about the history of the 1930s and 50s. It was fiction books, that were written about the apocalypse and post-apocalypse scenarios. And people like Orson Welles was a master manipulator of the people's psyche during that time. They said when they had that radio show, Orson Welles radio show, I forgot what it was called, that people were afraid. They were traumatized, and some people even ended their lives. That's what I heard. Moving forth and I'm trying to scan this Wikipedia page quickly to cite some of the events that have literally occurred on a a large scale, affecting a large scale of people, rather than trying to focus on what has happened to each of you personally, because I can't do that. I don't know every intricate detail of your story. But most of us have had some unanticipated, unexpected event that has occurred in our life that we can't make sense of. And it was, we were afraid, we were traumatized. And we, as time went on, we had to deal with or accept that fear, digest it, hide it away, and keep moving forward. And over time, most of us have forgotten about that fear. And today, in every day of our lives that we live, the decisions that we make, in our lives are governed by those hidden fears. So, back to Wikipedia, focusing on mass. I don't own the rights to this music. I guess that works. I can't control the background sounds. Never can have a moment of peace. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Close the window. Can get some air. So, back to Wikipedia. I'm scanning down, trying to find some, events that occurred on a mass scale that negatively impacted a large number of people's psyche and filled them with fear and terror, that they went on to basically, it was never resolved. They were never healed. They just shoved that fear and a sense of terror inside and continued to live. And every day of their lives, every day of any person's lives after that is seasoned by that terror and fear. Okay, I move on. The next thing under the history of the 1930s and 50s, Wikipedia points out is about the Cold War era, civil defense programs that were promoted public atomic bomb shelters, inciting fear. Get a shelter, know where a shelter is. Personal fallout shelters, and training, as I mentioned, for children, such as duck and cover. Actually, it says duck and cover films, meaning they were showing these children these films. Even if it wasn't happening in their immediate environment, within the classroom setting, the instructor or the teacher was showing these school-age children films that dealt with the topic of duck and cover. Duck and cover for what? Because there is a threat or potential threat for an atomic bomb to be dropped on them, inciting what? Fear and terror. Okay, let's see. And then it goes and talks about the Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints, and it has long directed its members to store a year's worth of food. So with this sect or sector of people, what people? The Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, a part of their ministry or doctrine to their followers is a store of food for a year for yourselves and your family in preparation of such possibilities of what? War or atomic bomb or natural disaster or whatever, inciting what? Fear and trauma, terror and trauma. And the current teachings advises beginning with at least a 3-month supply. Now it's down to a 3-month supply. But it goes on. Still dealing between the 1930s and 1950s. I'm going to try to speed up. I'm going somewhere with this. If you could just ride the wave with me, I'd greatly appreciate it. Wikipedia goes on and talks about or refers to the Great Depression. Now, when I initially got the message about what was going to occur in 2020, it spotlighted the Great Depression. And it let it be known, what let it be known? Astrological energies and alignments let it be known that in 2020, what humanity was about to face was comparable to the Great Depression of the 1930s and may very well be even greater. So anyway, back to Wikipedia. Wikipedia now refers to the Great Depression as one of those moments that what incites fear and terror and traumatizes a person. That trauma they carry for their whole lives, forgetting that fear or that pain or that wound is even there, and then helps to dictate what they do for the rest of their life. Okay, so the Great Depression that followed the Wall Street crash in 1929 is cited by survivalists as an example of the need to prepare. So it was the Great Depression. We've covered the Great Depression significantly in past times. But we know that the powers monopolized the political, economic, and something areas. Okay. And many people went flat broke and couldn't even feed themselves. Let's see. Then in the 1960s, the increased inflation rate of the 1960s, the U.S. monetary devaluation, the continued concern over a possible nuclear exchange between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. That's the next fear. It's always this fear or these rumors of wars and food shortage and scarcities. And so I'm just giving some examples. Let me try to move down a little bit. What else was it? Let's see, in the 1970s, there was a book that was written in 1974, and it's called Famine and Survival in America. It was written during a time of rampant inflation and in the wake of the 1973 oil crisis. So many of us weren't alive then or old enough to be consciously aware what was really taking place. But what has really been taking place, at least since the 1930s, that we know of why, because it's here on Wikipedia, is that people have been psychologically manipulated to be traumatized. Okay. It says most elements of the survivalism can be found there. Most elements of survivalism can be found there. Found there where? In the 1974 book of Famine and Survival in America. And the survivalists can be found there, including advice on food storage. The book campaigned the claim that precious metals such as gold and silver have an intricate and it always has to happen, intrinsic worth that makes them more usable in the events of social economic collapse. Okay. Then it was, let's see. I'm trying to find some of the, where's the map? Let me go down. Let's see. Because I'll be reading all day. But every single decade, there was the rumor of war, or there was actually war every single decade. And there was always a book coming out every single decade that talked about nuclear war, the threat of nuclear war. Let's see. And I want to read 1990s, the 1990s. It says the interest in the movement, what movement? The survivalist movement picked up during the Clinton administration, due in part to the debate surrounding the federal assault weapons ban and the ban's sequential passage in 1994. The interest peaked again in 1999, triggered by the fear of Y2K computer bug. I don't know if y'all remember Y2K computer bug threat, but I do. I remember going out buying these big double gallons of water. I had about 15 of them. I had stocked up on food, even Spam, something I didn't eat. I ate some of it, but I had cases of Spam. I had cases of tuna. I stocked up because of this fear about Y2K. Not too long ago, I talked about in one of my live streams, I think it was about, heck, I'm losing track of time as I get older, but a few years back, maybe 2012, was it? It was announced all over everywhere I went, and I think it was all over the country on billboards and TV and even on the news that it was the end of the world. I could think it was December 21st, 2012 or something like that, inciting fear and terror in the people to the point that they're traumatized. Let's see, I'm trying to find the next thing that Wikipedia points out is about what happened on September 11th of 2021, the attack on the Twin Towers, and then it says the fear of war, influenza, energy shortages. I turned this phone down. Environmental disasters, global, and then the global whole thing about the global climate change. And I just brought up Hurricane Katrina and the tsunami, the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. What am I doing? I'm just kind of citing or pointing out some of the events that have occurred that have had an impact upon the masses of people over the last, 70 or 90 years. Just thus far, I talked about the Great Depression, Hurricane Katrina, 9/11, the Cold War, all of these events, and then the threat of terrorism, all these kind of things has, had a really negative impact upon people. Let me come back. I don't want to, this is just ridiculous. I mean, I got people pulling up in my driveway. You wouldn't think I was a loner. You would not phone ring if you pull up in my driveway. Hi, Agent Nicole, how are you? Say, hey, Nancy, yes, I remember that. That Y2K, baby. You're the most underrated YouTuber on here. At least I got some area of success as the most underrated. It's true. Oh, God, I done had y'all on this board the whole time that I've been reading. Now, how boring is that? Now, let me see. Now, I got the door barking. Man, I say I've been trying really hard not to be in a bad mood. I'm sorry I left y'all over there on that page. I didn't mean to. It's just so many disturbances. It's the dog barking. Somebody pulled up in my driveway. I carved out this time to be able to do this video. And it's like something. Let me say something. I might as well jump to the month of August since I can't go, chronologically into each month. I guess that's it. It's in sequence. I'm going to jump to August because it's something outside of my power, something unseen that is moving in my life to, do what it wants to do. It wants to irritate me, try to destroy me, those kind of things. A lot of people, I'm sure, out here in the world will say, I'm just paranoid. No. And I shared a little tidbit about myself because it seems like that in the month of August, the majority of us who, the people that create humanity during the hot time period, which is August of 2021, will be going through. It's going to be like this sudden awareness. Now, this is just my preliminary analysis of or interpretation of August stars, but it's like people saying something ain't right. Something ain't right. It's like people become aware, and the awareness seems to come somewhat out of nowhere. Like the spiritual awakening has like, hey, something ain't right. Like people begin to sense that there is a negative or malevolent spiritual forces at work. Something just ain't right in the month of August. Now, let me see where I can go back to. Because I know I'm all over the place. This is Aquarius video on prediction, but it ain't got much order to it. So let's see what I want to talk about in June. So I was trying to describe all this time. I've been trying to describe that aspect of our being. And I think that I've given you a pretty good idea. I'm going to sum it up as the ego, because it's the ego. It's 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 the it's like imagine the ego within us as its own individual entity. Each of us have one that rattles with us. And when these type of events occur, it it I don't own the rights to this music. I don't know if you can hear it. I don't know if it's gonna make YouTube say, "Oh, your music is other." I almost said something. I almost didn't make it. Okay. They done rolled out. Okay. What was I saying? It's the ego. So when these type of events that I've been talking about occur, they have an impact and we feel some type of way about them. But that entity that dwells within each one of us, that ego, it is impacted itself. Now let's talk about the ego. We've talked about the ego before. I'm not going to go in great detail because we have done a considerable amount of research and discussions and videos on the ego. But what we know about the ego is that I did need it. I'm not going to look for it. That the ego is an aspect that of each of us that seems to inspire each of us to want to live on, no matter what. We want to live on. Survival. And the ego, once it feels like it has survival down packed, then it wants to dive off sometime into striving and to living this best life. The ego does not like to be threatened in any way. The ego is first and foremost. I forgot how it said, but it's an actual quote that is associated with the ego and how it is about its own self. Ego's about its own self. If we have in times past, and you can also right now look up Sigmund Freud, who studied the ego intensely, and he described the ego as having like three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. And the ego, those three parts of the ego as described by Freud are also spotlighted, during this time period that I'm talking about. What time period am I talking about? That the ego and the state that it's in is the impact upon the ego, which I'm talking about. It began, I think, in May, and all June, July, August, and I haven't looked any further. So one thing I just want to point out about the ego, the three parts, I want to point out about one part, and it's the superego. And if I can recall it, the superego is more dignified, I'll say, and refined. And it literally wants to be able to coexist and to share, where I think it's the ego itself only wants to share if it make them look good in society, something like that. If somebody watching me, So the ego itself is prone to switch its position and tactic if ain't nobody watching, if it's going to be beneficial to its survival. But the super id is your higher self saying, it is humane to, equally distribute, to share. Everybody's okay. And I point that part, the super ego, out because I do not believe that the humanity, the people that create humanity at this time, are on that level, on the higher self level. And therefore, the super ego cannot withstand challenges that can crop up as a direct result of social and economic hard times or collapse or breakdown. It ain't gonna want to share. Okay, so let me try to go back. Now, where should I go? So, June, back to June, because I talked about the ego. Now, I'm going to refer to everything I just said, that aspect of our being, which has been traumatized. I'm going to refer to it as the ego, because that's what the astrological energies is talking about, is the ego that suffers the trauma that is the trauma. It is like one. Like we got the spirit of the ego in us. Humans each have assigned to them the spirit of the ego. And the spirit of the ego got infiltrated by the trauma. Okay? Remember, ego is about self-survival. Me, first and foremost, So, and survival of the fittest. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm going to sum that up now. All I talked about as the ego. That's the term we're going to use. I may maybe use the term id. Maybe I should try to change that a little bit. But I'm not sure. I am not sure. Hold on, y'all. Let me see if it would be all right for me to use that, because I can't remember. I can't remember. What can I remember? The id. Okay. Yeah, I think it will be. Yeah, the id. Yeah, it is appropriate, I do believe, for me to use one of the other aspects that Sigmund Freud associated with the ego, and it is the id, the ID. So from here on out, I'm going to talk about all that I talked about under the term id. The id is a part of our personality, or a part of the ego, that is instinctual. Let's see what I can read real quick on the id. Let's see. I don't want a whole article on the id. Okay. So I'm on simplypsychology.org, and it says, what is the id? The id is the primitive and instinctive component of the personality. And I'm choosing to use the term id as a sum of all I described about the trauma. That's when the ego is attacked, the id becomes primitive. It's fight or flight, so because you're traumatized, okay, because you're suffering fear. So we're going to use the term id. The id is the primitive and instinctive component of the personality. It consists of all the inherited, i.e. biological components of the personality present at birth, including sex, life, which is instinct, eros, which contains the libido, and the aggressive death instinct. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna sum that up as id. Okay, let me recap, because I know I'll be all over the place. Thus far, what have I been doing? I've been trying to describe this aspect of our being. The aspect of our being is the ego. The ego got 3 characteristics, based on Sigmund Freud. And one of those characteristics is the id. Yeah, so we're talking about the id. The id has suffered some great wounds. And the id, which is a part of the ego, is only interested in its own survival. So the id has been wounded by events such as 9/11, the Cold War, what do you call it, films about what is it, duck and roll or duck and hack, because there's a threat of a nuclear attack. The id has suffered trauma, been terrorized by terrorism and all of the horrors that exist in the world. Everything from, we talk about the Great Depression, the Hitler in the concentration camps, and all the images and visuals we see in the testimonies, the horrors. And none of these wounds are ever healed. Oftentimes we forget, or we don't realize that how deeply we've been psychologically impacted by these events that we either witness or hear about, and we move on with life. And those fears, that fear experienced by the id, that part of the ego, helps to help you make your decisions over the rest of your life. Okay, so we on the same table, on the same page, not the same table. We be on the table too. It say YouTube be sleeping on a lot of people. YouTube is some booty butts. Facts, Jordan. They only want to promote fluff. Only fluff. I ain't got time for fluff. My life don't permit for much fluff. Yeah. Look, I'm gonna stop. So now at this time, I'm going back to the month of June and try to focus on June for just a little bit, if I can. So June talks about the id. Now I can go here, y'all. Back here. Is this June? It's June. And so this is the id right here, where you see the magnifying glass. It says, oh my gosh, I've been traumatized. I've been traumatized on an individual basis in my life about those things that was unexpected and unanticipated. Oh my God, I can't make no sense of them. And I also been traumatized by these global social events, i.e. Y2K, 9/11. Just some examples. Hurricane Katrina, whatever the case may be. Guerrilla warfare somewhere in Africa, whether you witnessed it or heard of it, And then this goes here and says, okay, me as an individual in humanity at this time, hey, I got physical, worldly wants, needs, and desires that demand to be pacified. And every time I move to try to pacify these wants, needs, urges, and desires, it seems like something occurs. Whether it's the loss of a job or something like what we're going through now, the unfolding of a pandemic that has led to high unemployment, illness, sickness, death, those kind of things. And so it is threatening our ability to live our best life. I do believe that's saying. Okay. Now going here, follow the magnifying glass. I'm going to try to go quick. It says my id, has led me to have certain needs, and I believe that my id is leading me, is going to lead me in the right direction. It's going to help me, collaborate and correspond with the right type of people. What's the right type of people? It's the kind of people that are going to be beneficial to you, to help you be able to obtain and maintain a consistent ability or flow of what you presume that you need to be physically secure in this world. But Lord knows it's all inspired by the trauma imposed upon the id, these threats, these different events, Anyway, going on, this particular where you see the magnifying glass talks about or refers to how a person feels the need to commune with the right tribe. Don't want to be, and talking about June, I don't want to be around anybody that can't help me secure my best life. The next following the magnifying glass is, so because I know that I don't want to be around nobody that ain't going to help me secure my best life, I'm willing, and when I find those that can be beneficial and helpful to me, I'm going to offer my support to them in exchange. Here go the dog again. I'm not going to go over these, but this is Virgo, which is I analyze. Libra, which is I balance. Scorpio, I desire. Sagittarius, I seek. I'll go back here to try to make it make sense. Why I'm passing them up. The reason why I'm passing up the zodiac signs that don't have any alignments in them or placements in them is because it's a lot more work for me to relate. As an example, this Virgo, I analyze. What do you analyze? Well, I analyze who I'm going to give my support to. I'm analyzing how I feel that I need to be around the right people. So we're thinking over these things. We're analyzing it in June, like, shoot. Either you become like aware in the month of June. Here's a prediction. Many people will become aware if they got some really weak links around them, people that are can be detrimental to their well-being or have been detrimental to their well-being. You become aware of that. And you become aware that, hey, I need to be around the right people, the right tribe, so that I can manifest my best life and sustain it. And so I feel the need. I'm analyzing how I feel the need. I got this desire, this urge, this longing to connect with the right folks. Then we can be also analyzing, these threats, analyzing the threats that have occurred, whether it's the loss of unemployment, like how suddenly it happened, or the death of a loved one or somebody you cohabitated with, split them bills with, how you're thinking on it like, dang, that was too easy. An example of how this can manifest in some folks' life or have manifested in some folks' life. They've worked very hard, and they may have worked very hard in communion with a spouse or significant other or a friend or, a business partner. And in a second, all of that hard work and they thinking you to build it up and got some security and stability is washed away with a hurricane or blown away with a bomb or, taken away because somebody have a psychological break. That's the kind of processing that many will be going through in the month of June. Okay. Like I said, the predictions for this month are going to be difficult to make. I can't just focus on a big event. One thing I want to, let me finish this. Okay, let me try to go faster. So over here, following the magnifying glass is about, a person also becoming aware of what they're proficient about or expert, in. Maybe you fix cars or you're an accountant, is what you're skillful at. You're looking at your assets, your assets and what you can bring to the table, becoming aware of that. And just, determining like, where can I put my asset at that'll be beneficial to me? Really investing oneself in an appropriate area or with the appropriate tribe, with the right people. Like, hey, let me find the right people. I'm a mechanic. Who can my mechanical skills help? And whomever I invest my mechanical abilities and skills with, can they benefit me? Are they willing to benefit me? Because I'm trying to obtain my best life and sustain it. Okay, going back to June, almost done with June. And moving forward, following the magnifying glass, this section talks about, let me just read what I got here because this is a lot. It says, I know that I am compelled into action by my id. That is to say, I feel a certain state. Oh, the id. The id in the month of June is compelling each of us to move forward and to because we feel some type of way about the state of the world, about what is occurring in our lives as a direct result of, the state of the world. Let's see what else. And the id leads us. Remember, the id ends up governing what we do over the course of our life, how we think, how we respond to unfolding circumstances and situations. So the id says, okay, hey, I got to make my way. I got to make sure that I survive as well as strive. And so it's literally inspiring people to move forward and seek the right tribe, a place that their skills will be leverage, more like leverage. I'll work with you. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. And to what? Ensure that one is able to acquire and maintain the quality of life that they desire. Okay, this is all the id. This is what's occurring from the id. Nothing else. The id. We got the soul. We got the psychological part. We're talking about the id itself, a part of the ego. And then, let me get back over here so we can move forward. I can't see y'all right now because I'm all behind the scenes on other boards. Okay, following the magnifying glass. This part is about the only way I can ensure that I grow in what manner, is obtaining and maintaining your physical, worldly security and stability. The only way I can do that and be okay and not have these fears overtaking my id is and to make sure that my tomorrow is all good, is I got to do it myself. So what am I saying? I'm saying in the month of June, the astrological energies are saying, hey, the id is now I'm going to say that wrong. The id is communicating to your soul, hey, we got to do it ourselves. We can't depend on nobody. This is the id communicating with the other facets of your being. Again, it's the ego, which is 3 parts. It's like Sybil. I don't know if y'all know Sybil, multiple personalities. The id is like Sybil. It got 3 parts to itself, based on Sigmund Freud. The id, the ego, and the superego. Then we got our soul. Our soul, our spirit. Well, what is our spirit? We talked about all these things on an individual basis. Now it's all coming together. The soul is the spark, the jolt that the Creator gave you. And the soul is the individual perspective you have living in this physical world, creating the soul, your soul experience. And then the id is also what? Cohabitating within. That it helps to compel us to need to live, not to die, to live, to survive, to strive. So we got a lot going on here. And then, of course, y'all know I talk about different cohabitating spirits that can jump on board, or you can be born with them and all kind of stuff. That's a different video. And I've done videos about that. Okay. So now that's what June's, one more flash, that's what June's chart is about. So at this time, I'm going to read these little messy notes I have here that are quite messy and make a few predictions about June. They're very generalized. Really nothing, I guess, that you can prove like some of the previous predictions I made. You can really prove them. But here we go. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So in June of this year, understand that the id or aspect of the ego has been wounded as a direct result of what? Of these unanticipated and unexpected experiences. And so now the id speaks. Okay? We can expect, oh no, I can't do it like that. I did start talking about the term survivalist. How can I do this? It's not time. I can't do it right now. I can't do it right now. I cannot talk about June. That was supposed to be there. I can't talk about June right now. I got to go back again and talk about July because it ain't time yet. So now I'm going to talk about July. Hopefully I remember to cut that off when I'm done with July. I'll be doing too much multitasking. Before I begin to talk about July in more detail, I'm going to read my chat and see what y'all talking about so I won't fall too far behind. You say, hello, YouTube, yep. Okay, yes, I did. I don't want my ears tickled. Don't tickle my ears. Especially if I'm going, be destroyed because I'm allowing somebody to tickle my ears. It's a time for tickling, but every moment is not. Oh, yeah. See, you bought that? Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, I'm about to go there. I can't go there yet, Asia Nicole, but I need to go there. What you talking about, tickling the ears? Okay. It's a lot of codes that are flowing around us, and we are oblivious to them. But I'm going to shed light on them today. Okay, let me go ahead and do July because it's going to help me move into or back into June. So let's see if I can find July. Where am I at? Okay, there's July. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to quickly go around. So let's see where you see the magnifying glass at. We're still basically talking about the id. Okay, the id. Remember that part of the ego? Next, we're still kind of talking about, how each of our physical, worldly wants, needs, and urges and desires are threatened. Our ability to pacify them are threatened. By what? These unanticipated and unexpected experiences, whether it's on a personal level, within our personal life, spending from our personal life, or if it's a global catastrophe or something like that. The next is, okay. I want to go back and make a statement here. Remember, this is about our physical worldly wants, needs, urges, and desires, and we feel like it's a threat against our ability to secure our own well-being, and to live the quality of life that we desire. Anyway, that this particular area also talks about summing it up, uncertainty in physical worldly security. It is a state of worry and concern. What is worry? The aspect of each of us that is worried and concerned. It is the id. Okay, which is the id. Okay. So next, the next is this is the part of the chart where people become aware that they're under attack. Is becoming aware of this being under attack by an unknown source, an invisible source, a phantom is attacking. Is the attack from the spirit or is it from the physical worldly powers? We may not be clear on that answer in the month of July, but we sense that, hey, it's a hand at work. You know what I'm saying? It's a hand at work that is leading to all of these reoccurring horrors in our worlds and our lives. We're becoming aware, like a sense. Following with the magnifying glass, the next is about prepper groups and fortifying. I'm going to read what I have here for this area. It says, I feel like it is necessary for me to collaborate with people that have the same or similar aspirations as myself, that feel the need or express or display the need to secure themselves here and now. Is urgent. that what? One must secure their self, their security in this world. It says, we, just talking about any person that has this experience in the month of July, will assist each other. You know, we who, those that have this similar aspiration, they would say, let me try to make this make sense. Let me come over here so y'all can look at my lovely face. Let me try to make this make sense. Hey, people gonna be like saying something wrong. I don't know if this is a malevolent spiritual force that's leading to all these atrocities that has led me, my idiot, not to feel secure in this world. Or I don't know if it's some physical worldly powers here that's puppeting all of this, or something ain't right. And at this point in time, I stand in intercession for each individual that created humanity during this time period that I'm talking about. I feel like I gotta take things into my own hand. And the first thing I got to do is I got to join a tribe. I got to know what I'm good at, what I got to bring to the table to contribute to this tribe or this prepper group or this survivalist group. And then I got to find a survivalist group, the tribe, the crew that I can network with. Because it's up to me to ensure that I'm okay today and tomorrow. Okay. And so, and it's an urgency. For July, the astrological energies suggest an urgency in doing so. Need right now to get it done. Remember, the ego itself is about survival. You know, right now, and if it's a sense of urgency, that means the id is fully on high alert. It feels very threatened. What feels very threatened? It feels uncomfortable in this world. It doesn't feel secure in this world. It doesn't feel like it's going to survive. So it says, hey, I got to do something about this. I'm not waiting on nobody. I'm about to go form some groups. So I'm going to let it go. Okay, going back to the July astrological chart and moving the magnifying glass. This part of the chart talks about the various prepper groups and taking one's welfare into their own hands. And so it talks about social groups are activated. What am I suggesting? I'm predicting for the month of July of this year that there is going to be a surge or a rise or increase in prepping or survivalist groups, or overall for the an increase in the survivalist movement. People will be proactive in doing whatever they feel they need to do to secure their own physical, worldly well-being, period. They will be joining forces with others in order to collaborate. Now, at this point in time, should I go back to Wikipedia? I'm going to go back to Wikipedia because at this point in time, I would like to, anyway, talk about the survivalism movement. Remember, when I was reading earlier the insert or the article that Wikipedia has on survivalism, within the first paragraph, it says that survivalists or usually they prepare just in case there's ever any personal emergency or there's such as a loss of job, being stranded in the woods, having to deal with adverse weather conditions, like in, what was that, Texas, as an example, or the fires in California, they often, the survivalists and the preppers also acquire emergency medical and self-defense training. This is what they do. They stockpile food and water. This is what they do. They prepare to be self-sufficient in any way possible and build structures such as survival retreats and or underground shelters. That's what they do. What else was it I wanted to read? Something else, y'all. I'm gonna scroll down. It's more difficult for me to do these videos when I don't print out the information from online. Because if I print it out from online, I can take a highlighter and, highlight it. Let's see. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So, right now, what am I talking about? I'm about to try to talk about some of these preppers or survivalist groupings. Now, this is referring to preppers and survivalists is the extreme. Each of us, each individual that creates humanity at any given time has a personal responsibility to tend to their own welfare. So that type of self-sufficiency or surviving is also marked by this astrological alignment. So I'm saying the two extremes. Yes, it goes all the way to the extreme of joining a established group. But it also has to do with each of us making sure that we have access to clean water, a food supply, which is now suggested to at least have 3 months worth of food, shelter, warm clothing, alternate source of fuel, create warmth or to cook with, those different type of things. Medical supplies on hand, just in case something happens, right? Okay. And let me say this. Here in my, when I read the stars for June to August, I didn't see just like a major event occurring. No. Let me stop and go back. In most recent times when I've consulted the stars, it spotlighted different, sectors out of society, different groups of people. It talked about the weak links and why they're weak and what opportunity they had and what they would face. Then it talked about the people that are, strong and productive and things like that, and how they had filled their bucket list and had a moment to exhale and then would start with a new bucket list. And it talked about the benefits of these type of people in society. It also pointed out the vultures in society, the opportunists and things like that. And opportunists came up under the preppers too. It also talked about, in times past, most recent times, of astrological energies pointed out. Oh, it talked about the professionals. Remember, what was the name of the video I did there? Anyway, it talked about professionals, and not only professionals, but people that hold different types of important social roles, doctors, lawyers, and the people that can fix society up. And I referred y'all in that video to the movie Who is John Galt or something like that, I think it was. And I don't even remember the name of that video. And so it talked about this particular sect of people, and out of that sect, there was a percent or a portion of that sect that do not want to work with people that are not like them. And I talked about how doctors really don't want to work. There are some doctors that don't want to work on people of other ethnicities. I think I said that right. As an example. But they do so because they are afraid of discrimination laws. That was it. So right now, and I bring out those previous videos up because right now I don't see any major event happen, but I'm just an amateur. What I'm seeing is another spotlight on a sect out of society, or the creation of certain sects, creating sectors out of society, groupings, networks, survivalists, preppers. Why? Because people are afraid. That's what I see. Anyway, I forgot to say something about June, but I'll come back because I'm not done with June. Oh, long-winded. Okay. These are what? My predictions for June, July, and August of 2021. So I'm dealing with July. And July is a month in which people feel the need to get amongst like minds to work together, to ensure their survival, to gain. Oh, that's what I was about to do. Okay, that's what I was going to do. Read. Because it's about, oh gosh, let me see. I'm back over at Wikipedia under survivalism, under the paragraph or section of outline of scenarios and outlooks. I'm not sure if I'm in the right sector. And the reason why I ain't sure because I couldn't print it out and highlight it because I ain't got no ink. So ride the wave with me if you will. I'm trying to go somewhere with this. Survivalism is an approach by its adherents in direct ways, depending on the circumstances, mindsets, and particular concerns for the future. The following are characterizations, although most, if not all, survivalists fit into one or more categories. So, right now, I believe I'm in a section in this article that talks about the different types of survivalists. To try to make this quicker, let me see if I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 different categories of the types of survivalists or what inspires them to survive. Okay, the first is safety, preparedness-oriented survivalists. And while survivalists accept a long-term veritability of Western culture, they learn principles and techniques needed for surviving life-threatening situations that can occur at any time or place. Who do? The safety, the preparedness-oriented. They prepare for such calamities that could result in physical harm or require immediate attention or defense from threats. These disasters could be biotech or abiotech. Survivalists combat disasters by attempting to prevent or mitigate damage caused by these factors. So I'm not going, because I'm trying to find something, but right now what I'm going to do to try to shorten this video, I'm just going to name the rest of the types of survivalists. Then we have wilderness survival emphasis. That's what some of these survivalists are. They're just about really wilderness survival emphasis. Then there are self-defense driven survivalists. Then there are natural disasters survivalists. Then there are natural disasters that are brief or short, and natural disasters that are prolonged. Survivalists. There are survivalists that are being trained or training themselves physically and mentally to endure and deal with and come out successfully with natural disasters, indefinite, multi-generational disasters. These are what people are really concerned about. There are people that are preparing for biochemical scenarios, monetary disaster investors. Oh yeah, if I miss this, I gotta say, I'm gonna read this to see if this is what I saw yesterday. What am I reading? This is one of the sectors under the types of survivalists, or what they move to, what inspires them to prepare to survive. I think I say that right. Anyway, right now I'm reading monetary disaster investors. I'm going to read the whole paragraph. Why? Because I saw something yesterday, and it might be in this paragraph based on that heading. Monetary disaster investors believe the Federal Reserve System is fundamentally flawed. Newsletters suggest hard assets of gold and silver, bullions, coins, and other precious metals oriented investments such as mining shares, Survivalists prepare for paper money to become worthless through hyperinflation. As of late 2009, this is a popular scenario. Many will stockpile bullions in preparation for the market crash that would destroy the value of the global currency. And we have been seeing that go on truly, over the last few years. Then there are other survivalists. I'll continue reading. Oh, but I'm going to forget. What I think I'm going to forget if I don't mention it here is, because I don't know if I'm going to find it. Let me come look at y'all in your face. It's about Bill Gates. Bill Gates. I think it's common knowledge that Bill Gates has bought up, it's said that he bought up a lot of farmland. Like it's all over the world. And he's the big land or farm holder in the world. Now, I think what is also common knowledge is that Bill Gates and his wife are announced they're getting a divorce. I bring up Bill Gates at this point in time because I don't want to forget what I saw when I was reading and researching yesterday. What I saw is, because I don't really remember what it said, but it's saying that one of the people that wrote one of these books that I talked about, every 10 years, there's a book coming out talking about economic collapse since the 1930s. Economic collapse, nuclear war, da, 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 da. I don't remember what author it was or what book it was. Just go to Wikipedia. I don't want to read the whole page. My video's long, seriously long. Anywho, one of the authors in one of the books gave advice, and it says to the investors, people that invest, to invest in. I'll say it like this because I don't remember the terminology. Necessity. Like invest in necessity. When there is a threat, a real potential threat of some type of economic or social collapse, invest in necessity. That's not the terminology, but I'm trying to convey the concept. And necessity is what? Because we are in a human form, there are requisites that we must meet. We need water. We need food. We got to eat, drink, urinate, defecate. We always talk about it. So Bill Gates being the big, buying all of this land, he buying the necessity in preparation for what? An economic collapse or a breakdown in society. Yeah. I wish I could talk about or convey what I see when I'm actually researching and everything is fresh in my mind. I've never been great at taking notes. Definitely when I go back, usually it don't make much sense. But what am I trying to say? I believe that what I read that little insert yesterday about the advice that was given to the investors, to the big dogs. They say, hey, when times such as this is coming, such as the Great Depression or anything that's threatening, especially for a long period of time, buy necessity, invest in necessity. Bill Gates buying all that farmland, invested necessity. I mean, he used his money or whatever resources he had to buy all of this land. What can he access from all that land? Water. We've talked about what they call it, underground water. I think it was underground water. Talking about natural waters you can actually drink from, springs. It depends on the land, but he has the largest land deed holder. It's understream water somewhere on these different areas of land. Another thing is soil itself for growing. I did a video about this before. Every single region has its naturally reoccurring plant life. Naturally reoccurring edible plant life. The reason why we don't see it, especially in the urban area, is because the powers destroyed it. We didn't talk about it. So right now, what am I talking about? Well, hell, I forgot. I am in July still. I was in July. What can we expect? I draw correlations in order to come up with my predictions. Based on that one correlation I just shared with you about Bill Gates, does suggest to me that it's a high probability that we about to show enough enter into the second Great Depression. I don't try to scare nobody. I'm an amateur astrologer, but prepare to your best ability. Another thing I just mentioned, and I think is again broadly known, is that Bill Gates and his wife say they're going to divorce. And I forgot how many years they've been married. I'm just going to throw a number out here. Let's say a big 25 plus they've been married. I just can't see people being married that long getting no divorce. They can hate each other and still wouldn't get no divorce after all that time. One reason is why. They got so much money. They ain't never got to see each other. She can have a house over on one side of the hill and him the other. And they ain't even got to correspond. And nobody even got to know they married. I mean, going through something or divorcing. No, nobody never need to know that they was getting a divorce. I believe that they publicly announced that they were getting a divorce because nobody would have ever known that they got a divorce. Nobody would have ever inquired about them getting a divorce unless it was potential for some type of lawsuit or to be held accountable. I do believe, based on what I've experienced in my life, that if a couple divorces, the wife has, especially with all them years, has legal right to a portion of his money. They call it alimony or something like that. But just say, follow me, if you will. Just say that all of this is a plan and a plot. Bill Gates and his wife buying all the land up. They were doing something else and then, getting his divorce. It's so that she could be over a half or a certain percentage of their net wealth while he over the other half. If he is sued for something that he has done or held accountable by what do you call it? The I don't know, United Kingdom or whatever. I can't think of it. She got half, the other half. And what I'm saying, they splitting their net worth in order to minimize liability or taking too hard of a hit as a direct result of like getting caught up in something or wrongful. Maybe I'm thinking that he is gambling. He's taking a gamble here. I don't know exactly where the gamble is. It could be with the land. He's gambling with folks' life maybe. And it's potential that he may end up being held liable if things don't go well. And in order to, again, limit liability and damages for neglect or something like that, just go ahead and put it into his loyal 25 plus year wife hands, into her into her custody. I don't know what's the term, into her possession. And unless she is connected with whatever the endeavor is, then no, she can't be sued. That part of the money can't be touched. It's something like that. I really do believe. Now, at this time, I want to refer y'all to the video I did when I looked at Bill Gates' birth chart. And Bill Gates' birth chart revealed that he was just a normal human being based on what I saw. But he's a normal human being with a particular, very specific type of life path, a journey. He was made to have money. He was ordained with certain gifts and abilities and talents, charisma, and being able to enchant people or manipulate, people and to get the maximum. out of anything. And it seemed like his birth chart was saying, hey, Bill Gates is an example of a person that comes into this physical world and can access everything, all the resources of this physical world, based on who they are on a soul level, determines how they will use those resources. He could be a humanitarian, which he shows that he's a humanitarian, but he can use it for, is a good humanitarian, and it's a self-serving humanitarian. He could be one or the other based on his soul. You have to watch his actions. And so based on his reputation preceding him about different works that he's done, it almost seems like he's a self-interested humanitarian, you know. But you have a choice. Bill Gates shows that you have a choice, you know, have a choice. Anywho, I'm all over the place. Now here goes this guy saying gonna talk. I didn't cuss, y'all. I did not cuss. I want to, but I didn't do it. Okay. All right. So I talked about Bill Gates because I didn't want to forget. So that does signal to me that the powers are expecting some type of breakdown, you know, to occur, or high possibility of it. But again, I haven't seen in the stars any major catastrophic events. But again, I'm an amateur. Okay, let me see. So I'm still dealing with July, and now we have these prepper groups that are expanding. So what we can expect is we can expect a growth in the survivalist movement. We know that's been growing anyway. It will grow noticeably over the next several months. Hold on, y'all. Why is all this noise going on? Who fell? Huh? Oh, okay, you're online. Where's Earl? Oh, okay. 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 My apologies. Somebody tripped over their cover and almost broke their neck. I'm not going to the hospital. It's right around the corner. Right around the corner. It seems Jordan possibly. So we can expect this growth in the survivalist movement, even on an individual basis. Remember, it's the extreme survivalists where there are established groups and different things like that. And then there's also on the individual level, just really preparing for worst case scenarios. It says, and also should be expecting the strengthening of existing social structures. What do I mean? I'm talking about how there are, established social constructs. We talk about it, government. Under the government is law enforcement, Those areas will be strengthened. It's just all of those different, we have covered here 11 social core constructs. There will be a strengthening of it. And when I say strengthening, I mean, hey, remember I talked about in previous lives about how people are going to go get these jobs. People retire, there's people that's going to get the job. People pass away, they're going to go get these jobs. You got to get in where you can fit in because you got to make that money because you need the resources to buy into the kind of life you want. So it's going to be a strengthening, meaning, all these positions will be filled. People are going to go get these jobs. Plus, we know that unemployment, PUA, or whatever it's called, is due to expire, I think, in September. Unless there's another allotment, and which I don't think, but I don't know. Anywho, what else? Another thing, gotta go to June. June. Where's my little thing at? Comment about June. Let's see if I can make a difference. Turn this off and turn this on. Comment about June. There is a square, I think, taking place in June. And it is, yeah, Saturn square Uranus. Saturn squares Uranus. So what is Saturn square Uranus letting us know or suggesting to us? Show you the chart if I can get back there. Baby. Let's do June. Okay. Let's find Saturn, which is here, square Uranus. Here. Okay. This is the square Uranus. Basically, what it talks about that relationship between those two alignments is that Saturn says something is put you in a box. It demands for you to adhere to a set of standards, rules, regulations, or policies. It says you must do this in order to what? Participate, to stay in good standing, stay in good standing. An example could be if you are, let's choose any field, let's say a teacher. If you're a teacher, you have a certain set of standards you must abide by. You have to be able to, you got to be able to pass your local state's teacher test, statewide test or whatever, to become a teacher, to be certified. You have to, get vaccinations with the kids. I don't know what they are. I don't know the rules, regulations, policies, or ordinances and all. I don't know all that. But there is a box that you have to fit in to be a teacher, to be a certified teacher, and to get to pay for it, So that's what Saturn talks about. And that's relative to anything. Whether you are receiving an entitlement. Entitlements are like welfare, disability, unemployment entitlements. You have to fit within the box or you're not eligible. You can work for any job. It doesn't matter if it's Walmart or, Kroger's or Target or, Five Below. In order to work for the store, you're going to fit into the box that they define for you to fit into so you can work for them, participate with them, and get paid. The same thing is this example, like what's going on with the housing. A lot of people became unemployed as a direct result of the events that we find ourselves dealing with, unfolding events that continue to unfold. This what is called moratoriums were established to say, hey, you can't evict people because we're going through this crisis. That's what Saturn also applies there. The moratorium is the Saturn. It says to the landlords, to those that rent, you can't evict people. It tells, of course, that you can't evict people with Saturn. People, you are a long issue. If you've been residing in this house when the onset of this calamity happened, you get to stay rent-free until we figure this stuff out. Those are the Saturn rules. And to the landlord, there are Saturn rules. Hey, you can't evict them. The courts has a moratorium. You can't evict them. Those are the rules. Policies, ordinance, statutes, whatever the case may be. That's them. But in June, it is squaring Uranus. Uranus talking about, certain events spark up. For certain circumstances, situations prop up that, prompt change, review. It can literally destroy. Uranus can destroy something like a moratorium, as an example. So what am I saying? What am I suggesting? I'm saying that in the month of June, and it's already been happening, but I think it's going to happen more increasingly. Just an example of how this can manifest in reality. People that have been saved by the grace of the moratoriums, meaning a cease in collecting the debt of rent. I think it's going to be gone, possibly in the month of June, or greatly diminished. Rather, Because what? Uranus says sudden events occur. Saturn says, you tell me if I do this, I'm going to be okay. And so I'm adhering to these rules. I'm in this box. I'm expecting to be okay. But Uranus says sudden event occurs that what? Threatens or destroys or nullifies that box. Zap the box from around you. Using the a rent and a moratorium, that's been in place since all of this has occurred. The Uranus energy can be the end of the federal government not, putting reestablishing a moratorium, or each individual state start taking it into their own hands. Because remember, the other energy saying we got to get around folks to think more like ourselves. More like ourselves. We don't need those, and it go way back, that ain't like us. If you ain't self-sufficient, not my problem. You ain't like me or my kind. We're self-sufficient. We're survivalists. We've prepared. And you throwing off our flow. And illegally, possibly, into the moratorium, or that security. That's just an example. I try to keep up, with current events to offer you examples. That's an example of what I'm saying can begin to happen in June, increasingly. We've been hearing about it. It's been a threat. People been shaking in their boots about it. Going back to the id, being traumatized on an individual level. This is an example. Not everybody is facing evictions, but there is a portion of the population that is. And that's their own private trauma. You know what I'm saying? Our traumas are different on an individual level. But then we have those collective, traumas that we suffer together. Again, going back to the Cold War and Holocaust and, the Great Depression and 9/11, things like that. And so in June, here's another threat. You telling me to fit in this box? I fit into this box, and hot damn, at a blink of an eye, somebody's not upholding or adhering to the rule or the law. Suddenly, like what? The thief in the night, suddenly, is what the Saturn-Uranus square suggests. Okay, now where can I go? I think I need to go back. Y'all with me? I don't know how to make mine any shorter. It's all right. All right, so I need to go back to, and I'm almost done. I really am almost done. Let me come over here and look at my channel, see if any big comments been made. Nothing much. Okay, I'm gonna keep on going. And what am I about to do? I'm going back over to Wikipedia, and I am back under the subject matter of survivalists. And now I'm going to continue with the month of July. Should I go to July now? Oh, one more thing. Let me go back, y'all. I know I'm all over the place. Don't worry about it. We're going to get somewhere in June. One more prediction for June. Bill collectors. The bill collectors. I think there will be an increase. I think there was a temporary or slowing down of bill collectors, worrying people and bothering them about stuff, what I'm saying, doing over the last year. I think that's going to be over, and the bill collectors will begin to pursue their debtors. I do believe that, which is going to lead to what? Stress. Going back to the negative impact upon the id, and its need to say, hey, I got to do this myself. Something ain't right. I don't know if it's a benevolent, unseen force or this is the physical power in this world. Something ain't right. Something is causing this to happen. That's kind of what ends up occurring for many of us in the month of June, when we become aware that we got to make our own moves. We got to try to do it ourselves. Is that the right way? Can't say if it's the right way, but it's definitely the worldly way. The worldly way. And that's, I guess, something else I can go into detail about. It's the worldly way, or the lower self way, the emotional response to scarcity. It's the fear. It's survival of the fittest, versus your higher self or the super ego saying, if we evenly distribute everything we have, if we govern the powers, if the many govern the powers, if the many govern the few, then we'll be okay, and we can make sure everybody got what they need, and we can work our way through this, and we can take logical steps to eradicate this threat that we've been sharing in for over a year, and get back to a life in business as close to normal as possible. We have a choice. Either it is the id way or it's the super ego way. I do not think the super ego can withstand the traumas that we're facing and will face soon. Okay. Now I'm about to go into something that was really interesting, quite intriguing, and back to July. Okay. I'm almost there. Now, where do I go? That's June. I'm done. Okay, I'm going to believe that I did that. I'm done with that. Okay. July. So the id is very worried and concerned. Feels that it's under attack. The sense of well-being, the sense of survival, security is threatened. We have the growth and emergence of prepper groups and survivalists, as well as on an individual basis too, of course. They're activated. Where was I at on this? Was this a particular page? Well, I think that when I was doing my little studies and research yesterday, I found a site, and I don't think I wrote the site down, maybe somewhere. But I think I asked Google what type of social groups will be activated as far as, what is it, like a survival group, official survival group. Other survival groups can be family units that work together. People that, what they say, work together or eat together, stay together. People that pray together, stay together. It could be that kind of family unit. So what am I saying? I'm saying when the astrological energy starts spotlighting prepper groups and survivalists, that has a correlation to families. Your family is your first tribe. Your community is your first tribe, part of your, first tribe. It, in one way, it talks about the portion of the population that has a strong family unit. Strong family unit. Everybody knows their role. Everybody play their roles. Ain't no drama. People live humble lives, and they can work together to make it. And at the same time, it also talks about that the reverse, that there's a part of the population, just talking about family, that is so dysfunctional that during this time period, they're not going to use the time wisely. They won't be productive. It won't be productive. It won't be, and therefore are vulnerable to whatever ends up unfolding, vulnerable. Why? Because they're not training, they're not planning, they're not taking it serious. Okay, I want to move forward because it's some really interesting, kind of fun facts about what's taking place. Okay, so anyway, so now talking about these different survivalist groups. There are doomsday preppers and survivalists, considered actually two different genres, I guess. And then there's organized groups, and there's also like semi-organized groups. What I'm talking about, preppers, survivalists, as one is called MAG, MAG, and it stands for, it's an acronym for Mutual Assuredness Assistance Group. And then this one is more official or more organized. It's actually teams. And teams, talking about survivalist or prepper groups, usually has rules and very specific assignments. So let me try to make it make sense. Like the MAG, the MAG, is a broad group of people that are interested in prepping or learning how to survive. They could have forums or online, stuff or things that happen in the local area, but they're not intimate, with each other. It's a more large, loose, fairly unorganized community in which people just go and flow. But many times out of those, that MAG type of community, comes out people that link together. You meet people and you feel them and you vibe with them, and you come out from within the large sector, like 11th house of Aquarius, the large sector, the MAG, whatever it's called, that large sector, and you break off into crews or tribes or small social networks like third house Geminis. You break off and you become a team. And a team has how many ever members are decided to be able to participate in this team. Everybody has a role. Everybody contributes. This team may live like in the same state, and they may like pool their money to buy a doomsday bunker, and they know where to meet up at. They have they've prepped and they've prepared. They have trained together. They know how to, fight together. Like if they're doing hand-to-hand combat or medical training, they train together. They go to gun ranges together. So they're very, they work to be an effective team. They're prepared to cohabitate with each other if there's ever any calamity, and they're prepared to defend the little network that they built up and all the resources that they stored up to sustain their lives, their members' lives, and their, those up under their care. So just talking about the different survivalist groups. And then again, it's the part about how, hey, there are people that I'm going to let it go because it brings it up later on. Anywho, what else? Let's see. So there are some benefits to being within a team or MAG, the larger property network, is you get to discuss and share ideas about techniques for surviving. You are able to provide mutual support. You get to share skills. You can weed out weak links. You know what I'm saying? All family ain't real family. You can weed out weak links, you know what I'm saying, and create a strong, small social network that is effective and productive. And one thing that exists when it comes to the teams is that the teams are trying to make sure they don't have any liabilities. Nobody will be a liability. Let's see. Another thing that is important when forming a team, when we talk about survivalist team or prepper team, is that they have to make sure that, those that, kind of manage the team have to make sure that the personalities of the members are complementary. So they weed out weak links. So meaning even as a family, if you weak, you got to go. If you ain't got nothing to contribute, you got to go. If you ain't on the same mission, you got to go. You can't know where the hideout place is, the bunker, or nothing else. And then plus the members' personality have to be complementary. Why? Because you got to be in it for the long haul. You got to have people that know how to follow instructions, play a role without arguing and drama and drunkenness and drugging and, and not having control over their sexuality. People that don't want to train, no, they weed all that out. And so also it allows joining one of these type of groups, a person to network. And also I said share information. Okay. All right. I did that. I'm going somewhere if I can find where I'm going. Okay. Back to July. Once again, we're following the magnifying glass so I can finish sharing my interpretations of these astrological alignments so that we can see what could possibly occur in the month of July. We do know it's going to be a rise in survivalist groups as well as they're going to be activated into doing what they do. So, okay. This particular segment of this astrological chart talks about how it is going to be important for people to compartmentalize or to have, prioritize. Remember, the astrological energies are talking about or focusing on survivalists and preppers, people that are preparing because they sense that they are under attack and something is going on. They might not be able to put their finger on it, but they not waiting for the SHIT to hit the fan. They are prepping. And so the astrological energies are focusing on them and them being highly stimulated into action because they feel like if they don't do it, it ain't going to be get done, and they are not secure. Their life is not guaranteed, and their well-being is not guaranteed. And so in the month of July, people begin of these type of groups or these type of mindsets begin to compartmentalize, to prioritize. And what are you prioritizing? The people you hang with. You're prioritizing how you spending your resources. You know what I'm saying? You're prioritizing where you make your investments. Like what's more important. The next thing we're going to talk about a little bit is over here, and it is about your area of expertise and your skill. And, again, accessing your own personal value and coming to understand how your personal skill, a set of skills and talents can be to whom or which sector can it be beneficial or in which way. So it's a personal assessment as well as an assessment of others, and how beneficial can you be into helping each other obtain and maintain the quality of life one desires, the security. Because remember, the id is afraid. Okay. What else? Oh, interesting. Here. It's talking about, about 2 years ago, I think it is, I did a video on the spiritual creatures that exist in our real physical world. This sector of the astrology chart are talking about spiritual entities. An example of a spiritual entity is the whole economic system is a spiritual entity when you look at it. The whole economic system. Racism is a spiritual living creature if you look at it. I can't remember the name of those videos. I think it was a human puss or something. Or it might have just said living spiritual creatures. Anyhow, I want to read what I have written here. It says that each and every day constructs has its relative rules, policies, regulations, and orders. as each construct is a sovereign entity or the spirit kingdom in the physical world. And as a worker participant, I'm in servitude to that entity. Yeah, being servitude. Being in servitude to that spiritual entity, whatever the spiritual entity is. I offer an example of the economic system. The economic system and is only able to function because we are the pulse. We animate it, and we are the pulse, the currency. We are the accountants, the bankers, the consumers, the investors. We are the pulse and a heartbeat of the economic system is a spiritual creature, is a real spiritual creature in this physical world. And it's saying that whatever spiritual entity that you are a part of, a pulse to, you are in servitude to that entity. If you work in the economic sector, depending on whatever level, bank, I don't know, it could be foreign, you are in servitude to it. You have to do what it says to. And so now remember, the astrological energies are focusing on preppers, people that are interested in securing their own thing. Of course, that is in opposition basically to a person wanting to focus on their own well-being. And then having to go be in servitude to a spiritual entity in this world, like a job we work for. I don't know, it's different spiritual entities out here. You got to go be a part of that. Or you begin to sink if you refuse to participate with and animate the spiritual entity. If you don't, you can like physically, financially drown in this world. You ain't got the money to move to go invest in the prepping. So some people are caught between a rock and a hard place. I've also talked about how the first thing June talked about is how people gonna go get these jobs when in these the very core social constructs, at least 11 we talked about, they're gonna go get them jobs. When people die and they retire, and they're gonna go get them jobs, they're gonna fill it in, they're gonna tighten it up, they're gonna what's the terminology? They're gonna strengthen it. They're gonna strengthen the social structure, which is social constructs, which those are also spiritual entities, and so a person not outside of the survivalists, outside of the preppers, just a person at home trying to make it, going to work, gotta want to stay home, protect their stuff during a time like this, but gotta go off to work because they're in servitude to the system or that spiritual entity, or those are just, a part of any, just general work. It's a servitude. You can't even focus on your own well-being. It is stressful to go work for something else, someone else, make them rich, help them establish a legacy for their descendants. And that's stressful. And then by the time you get back to yourself and your own personal life, you don't have enough. You don't have enough of some resource, whether it's money or it's time or energy or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of what that, is talking about there. And then this last one, and then I'm going to close this out with a few more statements about the little fun areas I found are interesting, very intriguing, is it talks about the end game. We know what is the future going to be, what's going to unfold. Let me read, because I was doing several things at one time. It says, I believe that the end game of my participation within the constructs I participate will result in my growth. You do what you do because you think it's going to help. You really believe it's going to help you. And understanding, and well-being, even though, truthfully, the future is obscured. I don't know how my role and participation will shape the world's future and the collective conscious. So there is a mystery that exists that is actively, present, or a fate There's a destiny. It's a fate for humanity, upon this earth, based on what each of our ids and our ids collectively choose to do, is creating our future. As simple-minded human beings, we can't see the complexity or the complex workings. So we really, really, really don't know what the future looks like. Because we uphold whatever social constructs we uphold, and they continue to exist, and those spiritual entities don't die. As a direct result, it creates an aspect of our future. Because we, divide ourselves up, the survivalists against what I'm about to go into next, is those that can't even see. And I should have pulled, oh shoot, I'll be over here talking and forget I left the thing on. Okay. So right now, I'm just going to finish this up and talk about some other stuff. How long I've been on here? 2 hours and 60 minutes. So I'm trying to finish quick. Okay, what do I want to talk about? So let me try to, June is about the id have been traumatized, and how what we will do, we'll be compelled, each of us will be compelled to do because the id is wounded. We are afraid. The psychological manipulation tactics used by the powers against us has worked successfully. They have incited fear upon us from threats of scarcity, of terrorist attacks, all kinds of things, so the id is activated. There are certain people that are going to go in action, like doomsday preppers and or preppers and survivalists, because all of us are sensitive. They sense that something is at hand, is at foot, something is wrong, and we're on the verge of this collapse. So they're going to be totally active. Again, there will be an increase in participation in survivalist groups and different things, maybe even the emergence of establishing new social survivalist groups or teams or different things like that. Of course, that spins out to so many things, from buying land, and again, a stimulation in the survivalist, items, elements, whether it's camping equipment, gun training, just an increase in these type of things. Another thing that came up is that, remember, it's this scramble for sovereignty, to be self-sufficient and sovereign. So there's always the hustler. So I picked up that there's a warning, I want to say in the height of July, maybe, that there's a warning to the people to be aware of hustlers. And they are survivalists like hustlers. You look like this. You got to get in where you can fit in. You got to make the money in order to buy the resources that you need to have the quality of life. And the hustler know that. The hustler is gone accustomed to a particular quality of life they don't want to let go of. What they used to do don't work for them at this point in time. So they got a carve out for themselves a specialized niche. And that specialized niche will be in what? Training survivalists and preppers. Might not know nothing about it, but they gonna act like it. They're gonna act like it. And so people will, be promoting themselves and promoting their service for a considerable fee. I can take you from A to Z. I can, a person that ain't prepped, I can get you to be a prepper in 60 days for, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000, something like that. Just an example. Another thing that is really popular amongst the preppers and survivalists are what they call it, MRs or something like that, the military grade food, dried food and things like that. It could be something like that. Somebody try to market, but it's not their area. They don't know how to do it. It could be something like that. Just anything. What you'll notice is it will be this promotion to get back to the basics. Do you know how to do automotive repair? Getting back to the basics and making money on it. Do you know how to filtrate water? If you're out in the wilderness and getting money on it. And that's just a part of the hustle. Outside of the hustle, this is the warning, because they're going to be trying to get the money, all the money. Outside of the hustle still is going to be this move to become self-sufficient, self-reliant, again, growth in these type of groups and clubs and organization. Therefore, it increase what survivalists, some of them do is they buy land and bunkers, as we read from Wikipedia insert, and different things like that. And what else do they do? They pool resources, include money. That's the thing to be aware of. Pooling money, the hustler. Pooling money, creating a group. Pooling money, like, it's something like, what do you call them, people that get into a cult, and the cult leader tell them, release all your worldly possessions. It could be a survival, you got to really, really invest. You got to really invest, give up all this money, and we're going to get this bunker. But it's a hustle, so something like that. Anywho, what's something else? Get into the good part, get the fun part. The fun part here, the fun part or interesting part is back over at Wikipedia under survivalism. And, I know what I want to talk about. I want to go under the subtitle of I know I missed a whole bunch of stuff because I was like, my mouth was hanging open. Survivalist terminology, which offered me a lot of clues to and understanding about how there are codes, CODES, being communicated on a mass level. It's happening right up under our noses without us even knowing it, through trending subject matters. What am I saying? I'm saying, hey, as we interact online, watch TV, or whatever we do, I told y'all, I became aware that we all getting the same messages. We might get them at different time periods, but it's still within the same phrase. We getting similar messages. Like when the broomstick challenge happened, everybody knew about the broomstick challenge. What happened when Bill Gates get a divorce? Everybody know about Bill Gates getting a divorce. I mean, you just name it. Everybody know about whatever happened. We all know. It don't matter what age you are. Eventually, it gets to you. So, the same thing right here stands true. That we all are exposed to the same subliminal messages and clues. And one of the subliminal messages and clues, I forgot how I saw this, is like Jada Willow Smith, the girl, talked about how she was interested in polyamorous relationships, having multiple lovers and love interests. And then there's also been a big thing about polygamous, marrying a man marrying more than one woman. It's all of this poly this and poly that. And when I was doing my research yesterday and studying, survivalism, I got down to the survivalist terminology. And it was a poly bear. I don't know how to articulate this or tie this in. Just understand it was a poly bear. Remember, these are common subliminal messages that we're all receiving all over the airways, whichever way they come. It's probably this, probably this, probably this. Another subliminal message that's all over the place in the air is zombie this, zombie that, zombie this. And the CDC talks about zombie preparedness. The message is going out. The message is actually being sent right up under our nose. At this time, I'm about to read some of the survivalist terminology, and I'll try to make it make sense. Then I think I'll be done. What I found, before I move forward, what I found for August was not extensive. So I guess I can add that in here. I talked about it earlier. What I saw in August was that people, in August are going to be like, okay, hold on, wait a minute, something ain't right. There's a hidden hand that's causing all this to occur. Something wrong. And so people seem like, now this is just a preliminary research. I'm gonna have to go back into August because it was this sudden shift. We got doomsday preppers jumping into action, trying to prep and everything. They don't want to get caught slipping. And then there's the other ones, the sheeples, which we're about to talk about in a minute. Relative to what? The subliminal messages that's all in the air. Anywho. And then in August, like everybody say, hold on, wait a minute. Now, I'm tripping out. I am tripping out. I am reacting. I'm reactive because my ear is wounded and I'm afraid now because of these powers and all their messages and rumors of war and stuff, all this drama. But they're going to sit back and people will start thinking in the month of August, trying to kind of explore or comprehend what this hidden hand is. And then people gonna take this time where they saying, hold on, I got this choice. It's like this awakening happens. I got this choice that I can, these kind of things I can't prove, that I don't know if there'll be any physical evidence to point out like it has been for my part 1, 2, and 3 predictions. But maybe. I'm still pondering it. But it says, hey, I got a choice. It ain't got to go down like this. I don't have to hoard. I don't have to let the powers manipulate me. I don't have to let the powers be corrupt, yada, 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 whatever, Oh, Lord. Hello? Yes? Yes, why? Yes, tell them come on over here. No, just why don't he bring her over here to use it? That's an emergency. And then take some with him. All right, bye. Mm-hmm. Will not survive any drama. Lord have mercy. I'm trying so hard. I've been preparing for so long, it don't matter. Anywho, the subliminal messages, the clues. What was I saying? It don't make any sense. Okay. Survivalist terminology. Back to Google. Back to Wikipedia. So right now, I don't even know if I finished my statement, but I'm on Wikipedia under survivalism, under the subcategory of survivalist terminology to read survivalist terminology. Check this out. What I'm going into is it is being communicated to the masses, at least in the United States, that something is at hand, and it's being communicated to the masses through the trending topics such as polygamous, polyamorous, what was the other? The CDC, and the zombies and the zombie preparedness. It's been trending over the last couple of months. And I was able to draw the correlation because of what exists under the survivalist terminology. They speak in codes. We covered this type of subject matter when I did the video called Come Into My Secret Society. Come Into My Secret Society. And I talked about the various sigils and codes and different things. So now we're going to use the survivalist terminology to figure out the codes that are being delivered subconsciously, subliminally to the masses. Wikipedia insert says survivalists maintain their group identity by using specialized terminology, not generally understood outside their circle. Secret societies, Illuminati, that's a form of Illuminati, sector Illuminati, unofficial sector Illuminati, because they have this is one of the traits. They have their own language and terminology. It's not generally understood outside the circle. They often use military acronyms, such as, and I give some examples, as well as terminology uncommon among adherents to gun culture, or the peak oil scenario. They also use terms that are unique to their own survivalist groups. Common acronyms are alpha strategy. What is an alpha strategy? Because we're dealing with what right now? Survivalist terminology. Offering some examples, not going to read them all. Feel free to go to Wikipedia under survivalism. Alpha strategy is the practice of storing extra consumable items such as hedge against inflation. Practice of storing extra consumable items such as hedge against inflation and for use in barter and charity, coined by John Pugsley. Then it's ballistic wampum, which is ammunition stored for barter purposes, coined by Jeffrey Cooper. See, people have been sitting up thinking about this and planning for a long time. So when we start talking about preppers and things like that, and survivalists, it's people that just store ammunition just to be able to barter with, to have it as a form of currency or trade, to trade with, not to shoot off. That's a separate storage. Then here's another. We're still dealing with the survivalist terminology. I'm going somewhere with this. This is the last place I'm going, and then I'm going to let you go. Thank you for coming to Can Angels Fly, Tarot, and more, and allowing me to finish up with continue with my 2021 predictions. This one was for June, July, and August. Okay. Bob. A Bob is a bug-out bag, a pack containing everything needed to leave your home and never return. Whether headed to a BOL, a retreat, a MAG, M-A-G, which we talked about, a MAC, M-A-C, or a redoubt. All right, the next terminology is BOL, which is a bug-out location, which was just referred to in the previous example. Then it's BOV, which is bug-out vehicle. Some of these terms I've already heard. Again, it seems like, to me, from my perspective, we often hear the same things nowadays. The next thing is doomer. A doomer. What is a doomer? A peak oil adherent who believes in maltesis. I don't know what this is. MALTHUSIAN. I don't know how to read it. Maltesian scale social collapse. Social collapse. Okay, then it's the EDC, which is everyday carry. What one carries at all times in case disaster strikes while one is out and about. Isn't that interesting that they have EDC, which is everyday carrying? Again, it's what one carries at all times in case disaster strikes while they're out. Do you know the level of paranoia that has to exist for a person to always carry a readiness package every day, all day, no matter where they go, in case a disaster strikes where they're out? Do you know how damaged it has to be in order to participate in such a practice of EDC? Yeah. Also refers to a normal carrying a pistol for self-defense, or as a noun, the pistol which is carried. Mhm. Then there's the EOTW, which is acronym for the end of the world. Then there's the EROL, which is excessive rule of law, describes a situation where the government becomes oppressive and uses its powers and laws to control the citizens. That has also been shown in the astrological energies, and it was summed up in previous videos as draconian laws. Draconian laws. Okay, yeah, and that's to come. Then is Goblin, Goblin, a criminal miscertain coined in the survivalist context of Jeffrey Cooper. Let's see, the Golden Horde. Let's see what the Golden Horde is. The Golden Horde. The anticipated large mixed horde of refugees and looters that will pour out of the metropolitan regions. WTSHTF, which is, I will have to go down the list to find out what that acronym means, but I think it's talking about when the shit hits the, okay. Then the next acronym is GOOD, GOOD, is talking about get out of Dodge, and it's, or Dodge City, which is fleeing urban areas in event of a disaster. Then there's a GOOD kit, a GOOD kit, which is get out of Dodge kit, which is going back into the bug out bag or that readiness bag that you carry every day. Then it's the INCH, INCH, a pack. It says, I'm never coming home pack. It is another name for a bug out bag, often used by those trying to show that they are experts in preparedness fields. A pack containing everything needed to walk out into the woods and never return to society. It is a heavy pack loaded with the gear needed to accomplish any wilderness task, from building shelters to gaining food, designed to allow someone to survive indefinitely in the woods. This requires skill as well as proper selection of equipment, as one can only carry so much. For example, instead of carrying food, one carries seeds, steel traps, and a long bow, reel spinners, and other fishing gear. Now here, at this point in time, I come to the acronym of Polyan, or Poly. Polyan or Poly. For some reason, all of a sudden, over this last year at least, all I heard was, again, poly this, poly that, polygamy, polyamorous, over and over again. This subliminal messages include flying in the air. I'm like, who gives a care? Why is that a big deal? Yesterday, when I was doing a study, it made sense to me, especially when I finished reading this list, and I thought about the zombies this and the zombies that and the CDC backing or a zombie preparedness plan. Like, what? It means something. They're all what? Subliminal messages includes this being, communicated to the masses. So back to this acronym under survivalist terminology, which is Polyan or Poly. Check this out. Is someone who is in denial, completely denial about the disruption that might be caused by the advent of a large-scale disaster. A sheeple, a person that will just not accept the possibility that this reality can fall apart and no longer exist as we know it. As we know it in what? In its ability to sustain our lives the way we've grown accustomed to. Poly and Polyan. Okay? It goes on, still tying back into that. I'll make it make sense when I get down there. They have prepper. It says prepper is a misconstrued synonym for survivalist that came into common usage during the 2000s, incorrectly used interchangeably with survivalist. A prepper and survivalist are really not the same. Much as retreater was in the 1970s. Refers to one who is prepared or making preparations. See, a survivalist already knows how to survive, obviously. A prepper is prepping or making preparations. They're still in motion, still doing. And then it's the SHTF, what is SHIT is the fan. I can open that. And then this one, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but these are the acronyms, the letters. It's TEOTWAWKI. It's the end of the world as we know it. End of the world as we know it. This expression, the end of the world as we know it, has been in use since at least the early 1960s. From a tagline to a film called Threads from 1984. However, others claim the acronym may have been coined in 1996 in the Usenet news group miscellaneous survivalism. Then we have uncivilization, which is a generic term for great catastrophe. We have WROL, which is without law, without rule or law, describes a potential lawless state of society. We got yo-yo, YOYO, you're on your own. And we got zombies. Here we are at the zombies. I read them all. Zombies. Zombie, check it out. It's not what we have been led to think by, the movies about people that all of a sudden it's this outbreak, pandemic of some type that kills people, and then they become the Walking Dead, Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, that, want to eat brains and different things like that. No. If we consult the survivalist terminology, this is what a zombie is. So why am I bringing this up? Because remember, there are subliminal messages and clues that are being communicated to the masses. The first one is about this polyamorous and the polygamy, and we found out the poly in relative to survivalist terminology is talking about those that don't want to see or accept that there's a possibility that society could fall apart and the world can go to hell in a handbags no matter what. They refuse it. Okay. Now, recently, again, the CDC been talking about prepare for a zombie apocalypse. A zombie is this crazy zombie obsession. Okay. Well, based on survivalist, it says, survivalist terminology, zombie is unprepared, incidental survivors of a prepped for disaster. Incidental survivors of a prepped for disaster. Unprepared. Incidental survivors of a prepped for disaster. I'm not saying that right. Who feed on and the preparation of others. Right, it's people that just vicariously make it through some type of catastrophe or calamity, and now they need the help of those that's been set up and prepared for all of this. And then the next insert about zombies, the zombie apocalypse. And it says, used by some preppers as a tongue-in-cheek metaphor for any natural or man-made disaster, and a clever way of drawing people's attention to disaster preparedness. So what am I suggesting? What am I saying? These messages are conveying to us. It's saying on a subliminal message to prepare. Literally, it is saying to prepare. It is pointing out the astrological energy is pointing out. It says, hey, the vast portion of the population of the world is not believing that the SHIT can hit the fan. That the world as we know it can go to hell in a handbasket. This is what is on our airways. This is what we are being exposed to when we get on the internet. Say, hey, people don't know. Most of them don't believe it. And this catastrophe is going to happen. And you've been warned. All along before it happened, you're being warned. You've been warned. And there's going to be some of you that make it through what is going to occur. And it's going to be a struggle, and you're going to be dependent on others. But you've been warned. Now, I'm confident in giving that interpretation because it goes back into some other studies that I did. And it is about the God of this world, or the creator of this world, the ruler, and how it jokes about humanity and says, hey, I command that the truth be told to them, the step-by-step procedures that will unfold over their existence be told to them, so they can't say they didn't know. But some of it, of course, will be in part. And I forgot what the name of that video. I think it's "Forgive Us, God, for We Knew Not." That's the name of the video. "Forgive Us, God, for We Knew Not," where I went and did those biblical interpretations and saw that. And so back to here. Ooh, let me finish reading that last one about the zombie apocalypse. It goes on. It says the premises of the zombie squad, this is a zombie squad, is that if you are prepared for a scenario where the walking corpses of your family, oh God, and neighbors are trying to eat you alive, you will be prepared for almost anything. So just a lot of ruthlessness on the verge of being ruthless. But something happened in August, though, to halt that ruthlessness. Though there are some who are seriously preparing for a zombie apocalypse, zombie attack. Anywho, it seems like, let me try to summarize all of that I've shared. That I can turn this off. I'm happy I'm on this page. In June seems to be about a time period in which a person really, gets in tune with their id, the state of their id. They understand that they suffering some, trauma, and the id is desperate. It wants to be soothed, comforted, and so it's priming in each individual to prepare to go into action. You got to do something because the power's on, because the government officials are not. You got to go do what you got to do to get through. Some people will take, established jobs within establishment and strengthen that and be in subservitude as usual, making with no changes made to the constructs. That's the thing. That's what it's really about. And then there are others that are fiercely going to carve out time for themselves to indulge in the whatever social network they have, or group, or survivalist, camp or group or prepper, and they're going to start, making provisions for themselves, or getting skills, executing skills, maybe meeting more often. There's the hustlers that's going to come in and they go on, promote that they have something to offer you of really high value because they know people so scared. They are opportunists, and they're not only opportunists, but that's what's going to happen in really peak in July. When I talked about Bill Gates and him buying up all the land again, that and it was a person that talked. It suggested that investors buy what is necessary when when it's scheduled for a calamity to happen, or something, a major change in society and the structure or stability of society, to buy necessities. It wasn't said like that, but buy necessities. Bill Gates bought land, which is the necessities. There's waters in the land, underground waters, and again, growing fruits, vegetables. There's lumber to build housing and storage. Yes. All right, bye. Oh, Lord, so I'm just eating this. I don't say the same stuff over and over again. Have a wonderful evening. Bye, y'all.